Not as good as I believe.
Oh, really?
Just trying to.
Okay.
Just thought about it.
Hmm?
Thought about it.
Oh, yeah,
Morning.
yeah. So that's bouncing back to the slow. Go moving slow. I'm bringing food tomorrow. When would be a good time? Okay, okay. So when you wanted to eat. Is it gonna do it again?
It did it again. I hit a button over here. I am the one at fault. This time, I hit a button.
Wrong.
There. So much for getting here early and having everything prepared. Today it wants to do what it wants to do, all on its own. Okay. Good morning. Good to see everybody. I'm going to continue with our study that we worked on last week. We didn't quite finish. Somebody got a little wordy, doing a lot of talking, and didn't quite finish. So I want to go back around and complete that lesson on the teenagers, raising teenagers. I hope y'all have enjoyed our study on parenting, raising godly children. I know each of us are at a different phase in our life, and that's going to be anywhere you go. There's those who've raised children, grandchildren, and working on great-grandchildren. And before long, be great-great-grandchildren. Time moves on. And before you know it, we don't have any control of that. It does come about. And some of us maybe in here are even looking to raise children in the future. So last week we talked about these different points, preparing for teenage years, get behavior under control early. We talked extensively about that. Teach them to respect others, which is very important. Our society, we should mail out a mailer to every parent in town. It's an epidemic of not being taught properly in the home. Don't teach things or allow things that you must correct at a later date. We do that. We don't realize that we're setting ourselves up for having to change a behavior in the future. It does happen, and it probably happened to each one of us. But remember, don't teach or allow things that you think. So you need to think about it. That's the idea. Is think in advance. Remember that little children grow up. They will become teenagers at some point in time. And the idea of building a cage 10 by 10 by 10 is a good idea. It's not effective. They figure out how to get out of that cage. And that's not a true problem-solving technique. There are times parents might want to stick them in it. And there may be times that the kids want to go get in the cage, get away from the world. But be an example to your children. Develop communication. It's very important because communication changes. You know, when they first are born, how do they communicate? They do a lot of crying. We understand that. Some of them giggle and laugh, but majority of the time when they need you to know something, they cry. And then they pick up words. Mama always wants to be first, and they say dad first, or whatever that word may be. The first time they walk, they're trying to communicate. It changes. So as they become teenagers, those communications change as well. I don't know if you're familiar with the terminology, but at some point in time, they were using more acronyms than they were words. It was easier to put letters together rather than like BTW, by the way. Rather than texting that out, they start using these shortcuts. So we need to understand that communication. It's going to change and to develop. Commend and encourage. If you like a behavior, encourage that behavior. It's not about always being negative. The positive is truly important that we need to do. And commend and encourage and then strengthen their independence. It's coming. Their independence is coming. So the things that you wish for them in their life in the way of proper adult decisions, independent decisions they make on their own, we want to encourage those, strengthen those, find ways to make those things happen. It is really nice, like I mentioned, that they clean up their room without having to be told. So you want to encourage that. But we need to strengthen them so that they take care of those decision thinkings all on their own from the beginning. Then we moved on to challenges in the teen years. Obeying the gospel, peer pressure, and friends. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Dressing appropriately. Dating, those things need to be taking place. That's the way we're designed as humans. And so dating is something, and I just mentioned that it's easier when they're at home rather than when they're off at college. So if you try to tackle those things earlier in their lifespan rather than later in their lifespan. Typically in dating, somebody's going to get hurt. Doesn't always go perfectly every single time. And so having that communication, being able to be at home, being able to express yourself, those things are very important. But they are challenges. Entertainment. The world is always knocking on their door. Whether it's through the phone, whether it's through TV, movies, the music, that's all attacking them. And it is a challenge. Dancing, prom, college. College is that time when they're trying to, I use this word college, maybe trade school, maybe they just have a job and they're moving out on their own. But those days are coming. And so if you're looking to go to college, then they're going to have to buckle down and be students who are studiers, who do their work on the front end instead of the back end. College will cull you out if you're a procrastinator. They find ways of culling you out. They just keep the material in front of you to the point that you throw in the towel, as my roommate did. And he decided he was going to work for a living. Started in a convenience store, got held up at gunpoint, and he decided that maybe that was not the career path that he would prefer to take. And so, but they learned those things. college. And then lastly, money. How to handle money, the value of money, saving money, paying your bills on time. Those are challenges that we need to be teaching our children. Dad is not a money tree, and you need to let them know that. At some point in time, they're going to think, Dad can buy my way into college. Dad can buy me a new car. Dad can buy me, and it doesn't always work that way. So we're happy, and we're going to talk about, I think next week, serpents and stones. The idea of how we use our money and we reward our kids, the things that we purchase for our kids. Our society here in America is completely different than what we see in Zimbabwe with Martin and his family. He's happy to have a motorcycle as a means of transportation. He has a car, and they have a car. Yeah, not each person in the family has a car. It's a car. It's they don't use paved roads, by the way, in Zimbabwe. So you see other challenges that come up. Well, we're fortunate in our country versus other countries. Our standard of living is different than they are in other countries. We need to teach our kids money. This is the section we ran out of time on last week that I wanted to fall back on and take time. We have 3 minutes left since I burned 5 minutes trying to get the PowerPoint going to cover these 7 or 8 points. We're not going to get it done that fast, but questions that parents should be asking themselves in regards to their children and preparing for teenage children. Number 1, are we creating a problem for the teen years? Are there activities that we have in our life that are going to create problems for the teen years? I'm not going to give you any examples. The idea, though, is for you to be thinking that there's a times changes in our life where in what we may be doing today, we might have, now that we think about it in a different perspective, having teens, we might have done something different. We may not have done something, or maybe we decided to do something deeper, richer because of that. So, question to ask yourself, are we creating a problem for our teens in their teen years? Number 2, have we given spiritual matters top priority? So some things that we do with our kids are materialistic. You know, what shoes do we buy them? That would be a materialistic kind of thing. What purse do we buy our daughter, or we allow our daughter to buy? Is it the name brand, or is it the second name brand down, or is it the Walmart cheapo brand? You know, we get to make those material decisions. Here we talk about spiritual matters. Did we, when the kids were young, spend a lot of time traveling, and so we didn't spend a lot of time at our home congregation? And so now they don't want to go to class. Now they don't have friends at church, and so they don't fit in with that. There's no chemistry between them. So those things that we need to think about. Spiritual matters. Are we teaching at home spiritual things? When the opportunity comes up, can we say, when the sunrise came up this morning, anybody get to see the sunrise? Oh yeah, I did. It was beautiful. But you have an opportunity to say something like to the fact, God painted a beautiful sunrise for us. Giving God glory, giving God credit, putting their minds into perspective of this world is still controlled by God. And we give Him glory, and that's who we're living for. Are we giving spiritual matters top priority? What has my example said to my teen? And I underline that said to my teen, because our example speaks highly. When you make a decision, and let's just say Dad decides that we're going to go to a restaurant that serves alcohol. What did Dad say? It's okay to go to a restaurant that serves alcohol, right? Or are they going to take that to the next step? Or are you teaching that we don't drink alcohol, period? There's nothing good that ever comes from alcohol. Okay, we can't go to every restaurant in the world because they serve alcohol. We're going to select restaurants. I don't know. You answer those questions. But what is your example saying to your teen? Your teen is hearing things that you may not even be thinking about, Dad. We always go to Texas Roadhouse because that's the only place in town that serves a steak. Or maybe Cotton Patch serves a steak. Maybe Logan serves a steak. There are other places that serve steaks. So, what are you teaching your children? When you drive by a police officer and you're doing 15 miles an hour over the speed limit, what are you telling your kids? Somebody want to help me?
It's all right to speed.
What?
It's all right to speed.
It's all right to speed. Everybody in here who agrees with that, raise your hand. Okay. Everybody who disagrees with that, raise your hand. Well, we got a few. All right, so not everybody's asleep. So you're teaching your kids something. You said something to them. You said something to them. You may not have said, hey, Dad thinks it's okay to drive 15 miles an hour over the speed limit. You didn't say that, did you, in the car specifically? No. But our actions, the example we set, does speak to our kids. I'm not going to condemn you if you're driving 15 miles an hour over the speed limit. You're all adults. I'm not going to go around and check your speedometer. I'm not going to put an app on my phone to check your speedometer, but I may put one on my phone to check my kid's speedometer. Those are available. But you can see how fast they drove. It tells you right then and there. It helps you to have that conversation. Maybe your wife needs to put one on there for you and hold you accountable for that. But the question is, what example are we setting that I'm telling my kids something? Maybe we let a little 4-letter word slip. What are you saying? Yeah. It's difficult in this world. But it's our example speaks to our kids. Anybody have a comment they want to make about that? Yes, Michael.
We often have the good examples, that we can do, like you're talking about, but it seems like, to me, good examples aren't as quickly picked up as the bad examples.
They may be looking harder for a bad example.
It's so much quicker to pick up a bad one time of something, and you're like, where'd you get the point?
Yeah. That is true. They're always looking, aren't they? Yeah.
Make sure that good example is many times more than those bad.
Yeah.
To try and offset it.
And if they do catch you, it's okay to apologize
Have a discussion with them.
and have a discussion with them.
Yeah, I failed here. I did that. That's not right. Don't do what I did here.
We lost it again, didn't we?
Don't continue on. Yeah. I think them seeing us fail is important, and how we recover from failure, because nobody grows unless they fail.
I think one that's easy to do is we're on vacation, so we don't go to church anywhere.
That speaks to our kids, does it not?
Tyler, you want me to work on it?
Okay. I'll shut it off, and I can read what I got to read right here. All right. Are we being watchful and careful about the little things that can lead to bigger problems? Are we being careful about the little things that lead to bigger problems? As we just mentioned, they're watching. Are we watching? Are we watching out for the things that's going to lead to a bigger problem? How involved are we in our kids' lives? I knew kids that I went to school with. This is back in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s. And they tried to get away with things that their parents wouldn't know about. Either the music they listened to, purchases that they made, whether they were legal or illegal. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Parents weren't watching. Parents were busy with their own stuff, and it led to bigger problems. Another question that parents should be asking themselves is, what did successful parents, those who have done well raising their children, do? And I know we have those who ask, how did you handle that? What was it that you said to your child whenever they came across this particular problem in their life? And so looking to somebody who's an example. Michael mentioned very early on in our parenting class the mentor that he has in his life. Somebody who helped him. Somebody he can go to ask a question. And so questions that parents should be asking themselves. I see this coming up on the horizon. Who can I go ask about that? Maybe what they said, did, prepared for in handling that particular issue that might be coming forward. Finding somebody that you can talk to. Last one. Next to the last one. Are we aware of our teens' life? Who they are with, where they are, and what they are doing. Remember we asked about that public service announcement? It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? Parents need to be involved with their kids. Question yourself. Am I spending time with my kids? Am I checking out what my kids are doing, who they're visiting with, who their friends are? Yes, they get to pick friends. They pick who they have commonality with. Yet that doesn't mean that mom and dad have to agree with that wholeheartedly and just take it at face value. We ask questions. Who's their family? Where do they go to church? We continue to find out who is in their life, and then we help them in making those decisions. So are we aware of our teen's life? It would be shocking to find out your teen was participating in drug use of some sort, and you had no clue. That's what we're saying. We don't need shocking in our life. We need to be involved in our kids' life so that it's not a shock. Cindy?
My son always wanted all the kids to come to our house, and it's easier to control the situation if they're all at your house. You know what they're doing. If they're somebody else's house, you have no clue.
Yeah. You have to have a trust in that other parent, if they're there or not. You know, all those kind of questions. So that's a good idea. Kids want to have friends and family. Maybe they need to spend time under your watch. Or find somebody you really can trust that's going to have the same perspectives and the values and the watching of the kids, monitoring them as you do. Very good. Lastly, are we working to keep good communication between us and our team? May God help us make these years enjoyable and rewarding, not a burden. Ask yourself, am I communicating with my team? Talk to yourself about talking to your team. Am I in good communication with my team? Anyone else have a a comment or an idea that a parent should be asking themselves about their teens? Yes, Armando.
Maybe not so much about the teens, but she kind of mentioned it right here. It's a, me teaching. I don't have children that are teens yet, but I teach a lot of teens or preteens as well, and it's a community-based thing. They said it takes a village to raise a child. So having the community around you, where you're just not on an island raising these kids and raising them to be the next adults, the next generation of adults, where you're having not only your influence, but the influence of others, good influences of others there. And so surrounding yourself with good people, with good communities, and good influences where they're able to reach out there. Sometimes I think that even while you want your kids to open up to you, I'm able to connect with students that aren't my kids, but because they see me so often, I'm able to get them to open up in ways and talk about certain things to help them go through the process. And sometimes, your own children might find it easier to get to certain topics with other people that they trusted. And you've cultivated that community around you. I think that's a big benefit. And you have varied perspectives and wonderful people around you that can help your child, your teen, your family grow in the way that it needs to grow.
And I would imagine as a teacher, you develop a trust with some of your students that they may not want to say something to their parent. And so they try to find somebody that are confident, that's going to hold their confidence and not spill it to the rest of the world. And they need that. They need that. I'm getting close to having this thing re-fired up, I think. The little circle's going around. Okay. So this morning we want to, there we go. All right, we went through all those. Want to talk about a new subject in the last 17 minutes. I got to hold myself to the time. I went over the last 3 times. I'm not going to do it this morning. Worldliness and the home. I sent out 3 passages in effort to not slow down our class much more. I won't read those passages. There are charts up here. But we're to be in the world, but not of the world. Y'all understand that concept? We talked about in 1 John 2, do not love the world nor the things of the world. If anyone who loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. And this passage talks about the fact that we're not to isolate ourselves from the world. We're not to leave the world, but we're not to look like the world. We're not to take on worldliness. We're to be sanctified. And it's not in this particular passage. All right. Mark chapter 4 is a parable of Jesus and the sower. And one of those 4 grounds that the materials, the seeds fell upon, it said, these are those which are sown among the thorns. And when they hear the word, the cares of the world and the deceitful riches and the lust of things come and choke out the word. And so there is the possibility, Jesus was teaching the possibility of choking out the world. Worldliness coming in. Even though you had a foundation for good, the tares got sown with the seed, and all of a sudden now the field is full of weeds. And we have a problem with being choked out. Being in the world but not of the world, 1 Peter 3:15 says, but sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts. Sanctify, what does that word mean? Separate, set apart. We're not to look like the world. We're to be in the world. We're to let our light shine, Matthew chapter 5. Be the salt of the world, Matthew chapter 5. There's all kinds of passages that point to the fact we're in the world as individuals, as a community of people, but we're not to look like the world. We're not to participate in worldly activities, deeds. We're to be about doing good deeds in the world. Be in the world, but not of the world. Worldliness, though, attacks the home. Characteristics, I think I have 6 characteristics of worldliness that hits the home. Now, I'm not saying anybody in here has that. I'm not pointing fingers this morning. I think we do a really good job. But if you don't know the snake in the grass, you'll get bit. So the idea is know what there is as a potential. This is what we're talking about. Characteristics of a worldly home. What? Somebody name one. I'll name one. Sporadic attendance. You see a family who begins to have sporadic attendance. Let me tell you, this congregation is quick to notify you that you were missed. When you miss, somebody's going to text. Somebody's going to call. Are you sick? What's the matter? Are you traveling? The Colsons are not here today. Why? They're out of town. The Coopers are not here today. Why? They're out of town. They told us up front, I'm not going to be there. I'm okay. But what about the ones who are hit and miss? What's it starting to point towards? Something else is more important than church. Something else is more important than worship. When you call them, well, you know, I didn't feel too good today. And let me tell you, there are days we don't feel good. I understand. But all of a sudden, each time you contact them, you get excuses. Not really the real problem. The real problem may be is they have a lackluster love of God. And they have given up for that to do something that this world offers. It's a problem we have to be careful of. Worldliness attacking the church, the home. Materialism. Somebody describe for me materialism.
2 new trucks and a new boat that you didn't pay cash for.
Okay, yeah. I had a banker tell me that a horse is a money pit and a boat is a money pit. And he will not finance either one of those. And we understand. You know, they're for enjoyment, right? They're not necessities. And so we allow, you know, if I buy a boat, then I got to have a bigger boat. The guy I work with, he's got one of them little pedal boats, you know, and he fishes. Well, he got an offer last year he could not refuse on a 16-foot bass boat. And he took it. And he's already spent another $1,000 trying to get it up to standards, you know. And so all of a sudden it becomes materialistic. We look for things. We buy things. We want things. We talk about other people things. That they got things and I want that thing. I've got a griddle. But Kyle Hann's got a pellet grill. Maybe I need to get a pellet grill. And Anna's got a barbecue grill. Maybe I need a grill. And Andy's got an egg. So now I need to get an egg. And all of a sudden you spend, what is your focus? It's on materials. You had your hand up.
You said it. It doesn't necessarily have to be spending that money, but if your mind is thinking about those things, how can I make that better? You know, I wish I had that, and your desires are there, even if you don't have the ability to act on them. It's still where your heart and your mind and your time is focused in those, and it can create being unhappy. You know, not focused on the Lord, not focused on people, because you're focused on things.
And what are we saying to our kids?
That things are more important than people and relationship with God and focusing on
Yeah. If you spent an equal amount of time talking about God as you spend talking about this thing that you want, maybe there could be some justification to that. But what are you telling your kids is what we're concerned about. And it creeps into the home. Mom and Dad brought it into the home. That's the problem. We have to watch materialism. We are very fortunate in this country to be rich. As a country, we are rich. Super rich. Who in here did not eat a meal last week because you did not have the cash? Raise your hand. We don't have that problem. There are people who have basic necessity problems. And I could talk about who bought a new pair of shoes last week. I didn't. I bought a pair of jeans. But anyhow, we're not without money, and so we have to be careful that money doesn't drive materialism in our life. Number 3, questionable borderline behavior. Somebody's knocking on the door. Somebody's got a crowbar trying to pop the door open. They're trying to open the window to get in the house. Improper dress. Reading unwholesome magazine. If you go to the grocery store, you got to put blinders on because there's unwholesome magazines on both sides of the aisleway. And your kids are standing there right next to you. Y'all know it. You've seen it. They're there. They're knocking on the door. They're trying to get into your home. Drinking alcohol. Who has not seen an alcohol advertisement? I was on my Yahoo, checking my mail this morning. And the Coors train comes flying into somebody's house. It shot into my house. I didn't ask for it. But the advertisement is there all the time. It's always speaking. And what is it saying?
I'm fun, come hang out with me.
It's saying everything you want to hear. I'm okay. I'm cool. I'm an adult. You can't do it as a kid, but once you get to be an adult, you can do that kind of stuff. And so it's constantly working on us. And so some people, if you hear this statement, oh, they're just sowing a few wild seeds. That is a red flag. Y'all know what a red flag is? That is a red flag. Something is on a crash course somewhere. You got to get a hold of it. It's unacceptable. Anybody have a comment? Yes, sir.
The lawsuit, did y'all hear the lawsuit that was settled this last week between Texas and the adult entertainment industry? Texas passed a law that had to show you have to be 18 or older to access a website, and they were suing to get that taken down. Now, why would they do that if they weren't after your kids?
They're after your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Questionable or borderline behaviors. Liberal trends are defended. If you hear somebody whose home is defending something that's kind of a little more liberal, we'll call that liberal, may not fall within the guidelines that you read in the Bible. If you're hearing that, it's a red flag. Worldliness is opening a crack into that home. Example, social drinking, prom, mixed swimming. Everybody's doing it. You know, when you hear that statement again, it's a red flag. Everybody's doing it. And the question Mom and Dad always ask, well, are you a lemur? Are you going to run off the edge of the cliff like everybody else? Well, no. But you have to ask, you have to question, you have to challenge those ideas, concepts, thinking of that teen. And you have to guard against that coming in. Is there anything wrong with social drinking?
So it's a bad example.
It's a bad example. What good comes out of drinking? None. There's nothing. Turn to 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 3. It talks about do not be drunk. Do not carouse. And that's when you're drinking to the point that you're not going to fall over You probably shouldn't be driving, but you really probably had a little bit too much to drink. But you're not drunk. You're not legally drunk. And the third thing, it says drinking parties. It's any place that you're going to take and drink with somebody else. 3 times in that passage it says do not drink alcohol, period. By any means. By any means. And we allow, when you hear people say, well, you know, we only do it when we go to the country club. No, you don't. You do it all the time. You're lying. And what did you just say to your kids? We only do it when we go to the country club. What did they hear? Michael?
It's okay.
It's okay. That's what we're teaching them. And what happens? Worldliness pops the door open and comes right into your home. Right into your home. Prom, mixed swimming, you know, there's other things that the world is trying to take is, well, that's old 1950s stuff. Well, if it worked in the 50s, if it worked in the 1910s, if it worked in 1850, it's going to work in 2020. Lasciviousness is still lasciviousness. Improper dress is still improper dress. Another characteristic of a worldly home is absence of home Bible study. It's never encouraged. Kids bring their materials home to work on their Bible lessons so that they're prepared for the next week. Mom and Dad never ask, did you get your work done? Do you need any help? Just leave it open. They never crack a Bible open in the home. Somebody's sick, we decide as a family we're not going to church. Can you not crack the Bible open and read a passage and encourage your kids for the time? Now, we're too busy. We're all going to sit around and watch TV. Worldliness opens the door into your home. Are you going to allow that to come into your home? Prayer is rare. Save that one for last, I think. Prayer is rare. Is prayer difficult or easy?
Easy.
Easy. I got it easy. Anybody on the difficult side?
It's difficult sometimes.
Difficult?
Yeah, it is difficult. You ask a lot of people, especially if it's public, and then feeling, a lot of people I've talked to, their families, feeling the pressure of, I have to say something right, and becoming scared. One of the biggest fears, I think Charlie said it before, is people are more afraid of public speaking than they are of death, even with people that we know. So, becoming hard, I think, is also a lack of doing it, a lack of practice, working through that. You know, we don't speak well all the time. It's okay. I think that's something to show our kids. Not every prayer has to be eloquent, including everything, you know, ended in a certain way. Allowing the Spirit to intercede for us as well, explaining that, man, I didn't have a good prayer right there, but the Spirit is one that went to God for me and understands everything we need. Another example to talk to. So it can be hard.
It can be hard. But it should be easy. Should be something that comes natural. Something that is expected. The kids know not to pick up that fork until we've said our prayer first. Kids know that you don't crawl in bed till Mom and Dad have had a prayer with us first. Those become expectations. Worldliness, though, prayer is rare. Attendance is sporadic. And we begin to see them drift off into the world. They begin to look more and more like the world. I'm telling you, Satan is at the door every day with a crowbar trying to crack open your door, trying to crack open a window and get in your house. Challenges for us each and every day. Yes, Armando.
You make the analogy here of cracking open the door, cracking open the window, and I think there's certain things that we see within our lives that that are very blatant. And when those things come into our family homes, they're very blatant. We see them coming, and we're able to fortify those things. You know, the things that you're discussing here, there's certain things that I think that a lot of us would agree on. Most of us would agree on there, as far as the improper dress is the drinking the alcohol. That like you're going to see these people. They're not trying to creep in. They're very. It's very obvious that the differences are coming here, right? The things that I think we miss are the stuff that we cultivate within our own homes. You know, we may agree. I was talking with Emily here. We may agree with not drinking alcohol, but how do we talk to our children? Or how do our children see us interacting with our own spouse? Or you know, we're not going to go and do the inappropriate dress there, but are we going and being hospitable? Are we visiting those in prison? Are we you know, are we doing these other things here that are cultivating the opposite of worldliness? You know, it's really easy for us to see the hot and cold. It's really easy for us to see the extremes, but it's in the minutiae of the middle, the details in the middle here that I think we lose out on. And we say, it's okay for this thing, and maybe that one time it's okay, or those few times it's okay, but as it becomes a routine or a habit within the household, that's where it creeps in. That's where we've let our guard down. And too often, I think that's where it starts. It's right there. You know, we know if somebody's coming to attack me, and I know it's coming to attack, I can be ready for it there. But if it's a little crack here and there, that's where we're not doing that. And I have a feeling that instead of being defensive, instead of going, you know, I'm not going to learn how to be righteous by studying sin. I'm going to learn how to be righteous by studying righteousness. And doing that thing. What do my habits look like? What do my routines look like on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that cultivate a godly home, that cultivate my children growing up in a godly home? And those things are where attention is put in. Because when the outliers come into that routine, then you go, oh, this is different. You know, this is not the same thing. You're able to recognize the evil based upon all the good that's around you. And you strengthen yourself.
It takes both. Yeah. Yes. Cindy, did you have a hand up?
The biggest influencer I see is the TV. From little children to adults. Things come on that TV that if you're flipping through the channels, that you shouldn't even stop or get close to. And the kids see that. They will watch stuff that's not appropriate, that will give them bad behavior patterns. Adults the same way. The TV is really the biggest influencer I see.
Yep. Anybody ever been fishing in here before? Do you use a bear hook? How successful are you? But you put a piece of bait on there, something that looks really scrumptious, they're going to eat that, right? Yeah. What's the problem with it if you're the fish? There's a hook in it. And the devil's trying to put those nice things out there that you want to participate in and be involved in, not realizing there's a hook in there. He's trying to catch you. He's trying to hook you. He's trying to deceive you. What did how was Satan referred to in the garden? The serpent, the deceiver. Isn't that what Eve said? He deceived me. I bought it, hook, line, and sinker. Is what I think our fishing terminology is. We have to be careful. Worldliness, and as Armando said, many times we as parents let it in ourselves. Be conscious of worldliness in the home. I think we hit the end. Is that it? Go on, bud. Oh, last one. Little family time. When the family decides to break apart, mom and dad don't eat meals with their kids anymore. They're not communicating with their children. Worldliness is entering in the home. We have to fight against that target of our family. Little family time. Don't take vacations anymore. Don't like being around. You've seen dysfunctional families that don't want to even be around each other. We have to fight against that. Be prepared. All right. Anybody ever have another comment? I went over 5 minutes, by the way. Again. I think next week we're talking about stones and serpents. I think that's what we're talking about. See y'all next week. Need this?
Yes, sir. You don't mind?
Good luck.
That's the spirit. That's
3 times. Crap.
this red. This is nice. That's a nice red. I've heard that it's very red. It's red. This is good. I like that. I'm more of a color person though. So just